What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this video. Today we will be doing a TryHackMe video, as you can see here, and the video of today will be it's gonna be the last video on the junior pen tester. Maybe let me check, it was this one or this. Yeah, junior pen tester. So in the junior pen tester pathway we have covered mostly all of the sections except we had something has to do with network security, maybe. Yeah, protocols and servers 1 and 2. So these two rooms are part of the junior penetration tester pathway for a reason, basically because they prepare you to understand most of the commonly used internet protocols, FTP, HTTP. You're gonna encounter a lot of these when you do pen testing, especially when you conduct IMAP scanning. So today let's do that. Let's cover these two rooms in a very simple, neat and tidy way so that you can understand these protocols without having to read all of this. Let's go here to the protocols and servers. So the first step we have to do is to make sure the machine is up and running, the attacker machine, and of course you can start the machine from here. So as you can see, the room is divided where every protocol is assigned to a task: Telnet, HTTP, FTP, SMTP, POP3, IMAP. So let's start with the first one. So basically Telnet is as you can see, it's protocol, application layer protocol used to connect to a terminal of another computer. So basically when you use Telnet, you are connecting literally to the terminal of the target machine, so you can execute commands and start programs. So basically that's the working of Telnet, and you can use Telnet to connect to any other port. So basically this is the command to connect to a machine using Telnet, but sometimes you can specify a port to connect to a specific protocol such as HTTP, FTP, SMTP, POP3, IMAP, so on and so forth. So the use of Telnet is not only restricted to using Telnet on its port. The port of Telnet is 23, so you can use Telnet with other protocols as well, but it's not. For example, as you can see here, we connected to the machine on this IP address, but we use the port 80. That means that Telnet cannot only be used by connecting to port 23, which is the port that Telnet uses for running a Telnet server, but also we can use Telnet to connect to other ports. So as you can see, we were trying to connect to port 80, to the IP address here on port 80, to interact with the HTTP server. We're going to talk about HTTP protocol in a while. But as you can see, we were able to connect to the machine on port 80 and retrieve the contents of a specific page. So basically once we connect, we use this command get slash, and the slash is followed by the page we want to retrieve the content of, and then the HTTP protocol, and then you have to specify the host is Telnet. Once you do that, you will retrieve the contents of the page. In that case, it was the contents of the flag. So yes, Telnet can be used not only with Telnet or to interact with other Telnet servers, but also to interact with servers running different protocols. But there is a catch here. The catch is it's not recommended to use Telnet to connect, mostly to communicate. You can use Telnet maybe for diagnosis, troubleshooting, also to connect to other Telnet servers, but it's not recommended to use it to transfer sensitive data, because Telnet transfers data or packets in plain text, which means if you run Wireshark now or TCP dump and listen on the interface, we will be able to capture all of these data, which means it is not secure to use Telnet to transfer sensitive data. So I would argue that don't use Telnet at all to transfer data, because even the slightest piece of information can form a risk on your network. Anyway, it's good to know Telnet, how to use Telnet, because during your pen testing you may encounter with different ports running on the machine. So the only way to interact with these ports is to try to connect to them using Telnet or Netcat maybe. So Telnet, yeah, as you can see here, the author used Wireshark and listened on the incoming traffic, or they listened on the interface, and they were able to capture the password and all of the communication transferred using Telnet. So to which port will the Telnet command with the default parameters connect to? So if you don't specify a port, if we don't specify this, Telnet will try to connect to the machine on its Telnet server. If there is Telnet server running on the machine, it means we will be able to connect, and the port will be used is 23 by default if you don't specify any other ports. So that's Telnet. Now, hey, HTTP. So I think most of you know this. It's the protocol used to transfer web pages. As you can see in the figure here, that's how it works. You ask for a piece of content. Say in this case it was index.html, and HTTP there are methods to retrieve and transfer contents. In this case, the method used to retrieve a page was get, and it's a get all the time. The server responds with the contents of the page, and the client, which is you or me, asks for another piece of content. In this case, it was the image using get request. There are other methods of HTTP such as get, pull, post. We talked about them earlier. So now here we said earlier, guys, that we can use Telnet to connect to other servers running on the machine. In that case, there was an HTTP server running on the machine on port 80, and using Telnet, we were able to grab the flag. So it's worth mentioning that, guys, there are HTTP servers and clients. The servers they run software to serve contents to people. Most web servers around the world run Apache, Nginx. These run on Linux. IIS runs on Windows. And the clients are the browsers used to access the contents: Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari. You know this. Okay. File Transfer Protocol, FTP. Okay, so FTP, it's file transfer, right? It's file transfer protocol. The name explains it all. So we use FTP to transfer files between a client and a server to download and upload files. The catch with Telnet, again, same as the catch with FTP is same with Telnet. It transfers files over clear text. So if you're not sure that your network is secure, it's not recommended to use FTP to transfer files. But if your network is hardened and you want to transfer files internally for convenience, you can use FTP. Okay, so here, as you can see, in the command line, to connect to an FTP server, we use the command FTP, followed by the IP address of the machine, and by default, it's going to recognize that the port is 21. Now, after we connect, as you can see, we grab the banner. This is the server running the FTP server to which we're connecting, and this is the version of the server. And here we specify the username. We're asked to provide username, and here we're asked to provide the password, and we are logged in successfully. In some instances, FTP doesn't ask you to provide username and password, or it does ask you, but you can input anonymous credentials, meaning username is anonymous and password is anonymous, equals to anonymous between double quotes, which means the FTP doesn't implement any sort of authentication, which is a dangerous and stupid thing. Now here, after we connect with FTP server, we want to retrieve the contents of the files hosted on the servers. We use the command ls, which is list the current files. As you can see here, the server responded with the contents of the files. We have mail directory, readme, and flag. And then we switch to ASCII mode. This is the command used to switch to ASCII mode if you are retrieving, or if you want to download a text file. Now, more importantly, if I want to download a file, I use the get command. Get command is used to download a file from the server, followed by the file name I want to download, and then I was able to download the file. Now, what if you want to upload files? Instead of get, you will use put, okay, P-U-T. You will use put, followed by the file name, and the file will be uploaded from your local machine to the server. simple and crystal clear. That's the flag when you retrieve the file. SMTP. Now SMTP is the protocol used to transfer emails. So basically, literally, SMTP is used to send the emails, to let you send emails. Okay, so whenever you configure an email with Outlook, you will be asked for the SMTP and the IMAP servers or POP3 servers. SMTP is a protocol used to send the emails. So basically, as you can see here, MUA stands for Mail User Agent, MSA stands for Mail Submission Agent, MDA stands for Mail Delivery Agent, and MUA again at the other end stands for Mail User Agent. So these terms may not be necessary if you don't want to get into the details of how SMTP works, but it's good to know them because you may encounter them while pen testing. You may see this term during some communication, so it's useful to know these terms. So basically, Mail User Agent is the client, mail client, such as Outlook. Mail Submission Agent is the server that receives the email from the mail, as you can see, client, and then it forwards it to the delivery agent, which happens to be the SMTP server, and then the SMTP server handles the process of sending the email. It will send the email to the mail submission agent to this computer and then to the mail user agent. So it's as far as the protocol SMTP is concerned, it's enough to know that SMTP is a protocol used to send the emails, not receiving emails. Send the emails. It runs on port 25 by default. So here, as you can see, we connect to the SMTP server using Telnet again. So we try to interact with SMTP server using Telnet, and once we connect, this is the flag here, but there are other things you can do when you connect to an SMTP server using Telnet. For example, let's try this. Oh, the machine is not running. Oh, let me show it here. So basically, here the author demonstrated a way of sending and receiving emails using SMTP from the command line. So here, mail from specifies the email you want to send from, receipt to, and then the data, and then comes the email. These commands are not necessary for you to memorize, because these days you have mail clients which handle all of these. So basically, it's not necessary to memorize these commands. But sometimes, again, during pen testing, you may see an SMTP server running and you want to interact with the SMTP server. So you try to connect to the server using Telnet. Okay, and then you will just check the documentation of the SMTP protocol. You don't need to memorize the commands. Again, one more time, you can find them in the documentation of the protocol. So SMTP documentation, SMTP commands. They are all specified here. SMTP commands. As you can see, mail from specifies the mail sender. So all of the commands for all these protocols are well documented over the internet. You don't need to memorize the commands, but remember that you may need to use them if you are just maybe diagnosing, troubleshooting, or maybe testing. So use Telnet. Alright, the flag, we grab the flag. POP3. Now POP and IMAP perform the same job, which is receiving the email, downloading the email to your inbox. So POP3 and IMAP perform the same function, but with a little difference. POP3 is by default configured to delete the email from the server when it downloads it to your machine. So POP3 downloads the email to your machine, the emails you receive, and then it deletes it from the server, which means if you open your email on a different server, they're not going to be synchronized. So POP3 it's not used anymore. I mean, unless you want to make sure that, unless you don't want to synchronize your emails across different devices, use POP3. But if you want to synchronize your emails across different devices, and you are paranoid of accidental deletion of your emails from your Outlook or from your mail client, just use IMAP. POP3 runs on port 110 and IMAP runs on port 143. You can connect to both of them using, again, Telnet. So here we connected to POP3 on port 110. After we connected, as you can see, we were prompted with this, okay, hello there, and then we issued the command. Oh, here we authenticated using the credentials, user frank and password. Here, once we are logged in, we issued the command stat, as the name suggests. Stat gives you statistics about the data contained in the inbox. So here, as you can see, the inbox contains 0 messages and 0 bytes. One more time, these commands, no need to memorize them. You can find them in the documentation of the associated or the corresponding protocol. Back here, the answers. So we connected and we found that there were 0 emails and 0 bytes. Now for IMAP, I didn't connect to IMAP, I guess. So for IMAP, runs on port 143. And here they demonstrated a demo of connected to an IMAP server using Telnet. So again, as you can see here, guys, after the connection was successful by providing the username and password. So see here, the username and password were provided with each other, like sequentially. So login, frank, and the password. That's the command. But see here, every command is preceded by some sort of string. C1, could be B1, could be A1. They're used for tracking only, to help IMAP server track your transactions. So C1, this is the command, and then C2. And here they use the this one here. This command lists the current contents of the IMAP server. So C2 and list. Make sure to increment the numbers. So as you increase the number of commands. So here with the first command C1, the second command should be C2, the third command should be C3, so that IMAP server is able to track your transactions or the commands you execute. One more time, no need to memorize these commands. They are written on the documentation. Just remember that these servers or these protocols, how they work and how to interact with them using Telnet. Okay, this one is finished. Yeah, the next one. Now in the next room here, the authors of this room, they demonstrated the dangers of using some of these protocols from the security perspective. So we said earlier, guys, that Telnet, Telnet, FTP, SMTP, IMAP, all of these protocols, they are good, guys, but they are not well secured because they transfer the data in clear text, which means sniffing attacks and MITM attacks are most probably successful if you conduct them against these protocols. So basically, here was a demonstration of a sniffing attack. So what happened here? A sniffing attack can be conducted if you are on the same network with the host you want to sniff the packets from. So there are many tools out there to perform sniffing. TCP dump, command line tool, Wireshark is a GUI interface, and T-Shark is the CLI version of Wireshark. So what happens here is, if I am on the same network, say with a server running, as you can see, this is port 110. So this is a machine running a POP server, POP3 server. So I have a machine on the same network, again, running on port or running POP3 on port 110. If on another machine I run TCP dump, okay, and specify the port 110-8 to display the contents of the packet, I will be able to sniff all of the packets exchange between the POP3 server and any other client, okay, inside the network or outside the network. But there is one condition for sniffing to work, which is you have to be on the same network of the server or the machine running or the protocol you want to sniff the data from. If you are not on the same network, sniffing will not work. Here they use the same protocol with Wireshark. What do you need to add to the command to capture only Telnet traffic? So TCP dump, we add port, specify the port, and then the actual port number. What's the simplest display filter you can use with Wireshark to show only IMAP traffic? It is IMAP. MITM. Now MITM is a type of attack where the attacker sits between you and your destination. Again, they have to be on the same network, whether wired or wireless. So basically this is the attacker, and they are in the middle. So basically the attacker may perform MITM attack using different methods. One of the methods to perform MITM attack is to use rogue access point. Rogue access point is a method an attacker would use to set up a fake access point or a fake Wi-Fi, open Wi-Fi, and make it to connect to the Wi-Fi, so that you and the attacker are on the same network, and then they can sniff or perform MITM. Another method to perform MITM attack is to perform R poisoning or DNS poisoning. So the attacker now acts as the router. So the attacker retrieves the packets or the request from you, forwards the packet to the actual real router, and then to the destination, so you wouldn't feel anything wrong going on. One of the methods to perform ITM are tools, BetterCap. I explain BetterCap in all of my videos, and EtherCap. TLS. Okay, now to the security. So basically, all of the protocols we talked about can be secured. I mean, the communication conducted over these protocols can be secured using encryption. So here, TLS is a solution to data transferred in clear text. It uses SSL to make the communication or the data encrypted. So as you can see, for every protocol we talked about, there is another version that runs with encryption. HTTPS, as you can see, the port now changed to 443, FTPS 990, SMTPS 465, POP3S 995, and IMAP S 993. So now you have encryption. Now you should use the other version of these protocols. The question here is, DNS can also be secured using TLS. What's the three-letter acronym of the DNS protocol? You can use Google, but it is DNS over TLS. Secure Shell. Secure Shell is an alternative to FTP, more secure alternative to FTP to transfer files and to connect to other machines, to execute system commands as well. So SSH cannot only be used to transfer files, but also to execute commands. So it's like you are connecting to the machine. It's like when you connect to the machine with SSH, it's like you are physically interacting with the machine. And SSH is immune to MITM because the contents is encrypted. Let's answer the commands. Use SSH to connect to this IP, and this is the password, the username, and the password. So we already did this. SSH mark at the IP address. Here we are prompted to trust the public key. We say yes, and then we provide the password, and we are logged in. See here, we issued the command union-r, and it worked. We received an output because, as I told you guys, SSH enables you to execute system commands remotely as if you are executing them physically on site while you interact with the machine. So we received that. This is the version running on the kernel release. Use SSH to download the file from the remote system. So basically, in order to use SSH to download and upload files, there is a tool called SCP to download and upload files. So when you execute this command, it's going to ask you for the password. It's going to try first to log in to the SSH server using Mark, and as you can see, I was asked to provide the password. So this command here connects to the SSH server, and what happens, it downloads the file book.txt, and here I specify, as you can see, the destination. In my case, it was the current directory. So I downloaded the book file, and the answer is 415 kilobytes. Password attacks. Hopefully YouTube will not block my video because I said password attacks. Okay, so we talked about these guys previously, how to perform password attacks, but basically it relies on using a word list. So you have a word list of possible passwords that you think one of them could work, and then you are equipped with the username, so you have to have the username. So basically this is the Hydra command. Let me show you here on action. So here, Hydra, one of the tools used to crack passwords or to test the complexity of passwords. You can use it to test the complexity of the password you're using. So here, the username, we know the username, and instead of, if you don't know the username, you can again supply a list of usernames. So if you have a list of usernames you want to try, you can again supply them here. -p, and here this is the password list, and then we come to where we're gonna try these. So Hydra lets you perform password attacks or password complexity testing against all sorts of protocols: HTTP, IMAP, POP3, FTP, SSH, login forms. All login forms or router login forms are subject to HTTP. So if you want to test them, you can use HTTP here instead. But you need other sort of parameters like the data, the username, and the password included in the form. So this goes beyond the scope of this video. I'm not going to cover this. I have covered them before. I will try to put them in the video description if YouTube doesn't block this video. So this is the protocol and the IP address, and once we start, it's going to try the username with every single password contained in the list. Once Hydra receives a successful login, it will, as you can see, give you the credentials that worked to log into the server. And this is your answer. So that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you later.